This is why you died.
Welcome again, everyone, to This Is Why You Died, a brand new podcast where we analyze and break down horror movies of various pedigrees and reputations and try to figure out just why people keep on dying in these kinds of movies. My name is Sir Ian Dangerous. I am joined, as always, on my proverbial left by RyanRossLIVE and on my proverbial right by Dan Marcha Madness. Dan has seen a lot of horror movies like myself. Ryan has seen Goosebumps. How are you, boys? How are we doing tonight?
Feeling good. I'm excited to talk about this movie.
Yeah, we have a good one on the show.
I am so pumped, guys. I am so pumped about this movie.
I'm excited to talk about it as well. First things first, gentlemen, I noticed that we all currently are holding a beverage in our hands. What do we got over there? Look, Ryan, you've got an 805, a lovely locally brewed ale, light ale. And then Dan, what are you holding there?
So this is weird. This is in a wine glass. I have some root beer mixed with some peanut butter whiskey. Look how fancy that is.
That's very fancy.
Honestly, when you started it with "this is weird," I was much more concerned than root beer and peanut butter whiskey. But
I'm not concerned over him. I'm just concerned about his diabetes he's going to get from all of the sugar and all of that. Not that I can talk because I'm currently quaffing a cinnamon old fashioned myself. So,
ooh, that sounds good.
I cannot judge. However, we are going to judge a movie today on this show. It's Ryan's pick this time. The way this show works is we go in cycles. We all pick a prompt from our respective little jugs of evil. And that prompt then makes us choose a movie that the other men have to watch on this show. And then we watch the movie, come back, and we talk about it. So far, we've watched Dan's first pick based on the prompt Black and White. It was Scream, the very first Scream movie. That was a lot of fun to talk about. And then last episode, I had the prompt of Robert Englund. And as a result, we watched 976 Evil, the all-time 80s classic. I can't even say it without laughing. It's 976 Evil, which was a very fun film to talk about on our last episode. But Ryan is up next. And on the last episode, we revealed that Ryan is doing what movie, Ryan, for this particular episode?
Silence of the Lambs. So I got to give a shout out real quick. My friend Hermes actually was the one who gave us the idea. We discussed and we thought it was cool to reveal the movies at the end of the episode so that the viewers and listeners can watch these movies along with us, almost like a horror book club. And that idea was suggested to me by a listener and friend whose name is Hermes. And so quick shout out to him for that, because that's a great idea. We all love it. And so we jumped on it. But my first pick, my first contribution to the podcast, as in terms of films, we're going to be watching. We watched at this point Silence of the Lambs.
And you picked that because of your prompt was bugs.
Yes. Well, it was the poster. It's the fact that when I was trying to think of bug horror movies, I didn't want to go I'm not a huge bug guy, so I didn't want to go like full body horror bugs or whatever. We're
still early in the show.
Yet.
Yeah.
But the first image that came to mind was that moth on the mouth. And I've never understood up until now the context of which that was. I've seen that poster so many times because it's an iconic poster. That was the first image that came to mind. I was like, that's a great one. And as I mentioned, I'm a big Anthony Hopkins fan, and I told that story in the last episode. So if you missed that, check that out.
Well, and actually, we were joking before we started recording today that we're going to all drop some trivia on this episode. I'm going to start right now with the poster. Have you ever looked really closely at the poster? The actual moth on her mouth on the cover of that poster is not, the skull is not the actual marking of the moth. It's actually a very small version of a Salvador Dali photograph. It's actually 7 naked women all formed together to make a skull.
Wow,
and
I did not know that.
Given the movie's, we'll talk about it later, but the movie's themes about feminism and sexuality, we'll talk about it. It's actually very appropriate.
The level of detail in this movie was incredible.
And you know what? That's where it starts, is on the poster itself. So before we get into really breaking down and analyzing one of the greatest horror movies, I think inarguably one of the greatest horror movies of all time, one of the greatest, I'll go so far as to say one of the greatest movies of all time. What were our thoughts? Now, obviously, Dan, you and I have seen this movie before.
Right. Yeah. But it's been a while for me. I can't even recall the last time I did sit down and watch.
Have you seen it more than once, or have you seen it like a few times? Or
I've seen it more than once, but and we can go about and turn we can talk about this later. But when the show Hannibal came on NBC, that really changed the game of Hannibal as well too. So I got more into that and was watching more of that newer Hannibal than wanting to revisit this Anthony Hopkins one. So it's been a while since I've seen it. But before the Hannibal TV show, I'd seen it multiple times because it's just such a perfect film. So it's great to see over and over.
I think it's actually a great thing that we are going to talk later about the legacy of Silence of the Lambs and the things that have come afterwards, because obviously it started a whole franchise at this point. Mm-hmm. But
which I learned upon viewing this movie. I didn't realize that there were more than one.
Wait, had you seen any of them, like the TV show or the sequels?
No.
Wow. I would have been shocked if you had seen Red Dragon and were like, I didn't know that was the same movie. But it's possible. It's possible. We had to be sure. So yeah, and I've seen this movie literally dozens and dozens of times. I won't say in the hundreds. I don't think I've gotten that high yet, but it's up there. I've got it on Criterion. I busted out. I went and found my Criterion edition and busted that out for it, and felt all.
Okay, you gotta fill in the youngin. What's Criterion?
I am going to go jump off a cliff with you saying that. That's not even.
I'm serious. I don't know what Criterion
is a company that they make physical media. Remember physical media? No, you don't.
I don't.
I'm
presuming we're talking collector's editions.
You know what? Just to make it simple.
Just the fact that we.
Just to make it simple. Yeah. No. You know what? They're fancy collector's editions. Yes. That's what they are.
Yes, yeah, that is simple way to say it, yeah.
I'll simplify it for you, Ryan. They're a film group that takes what they consider important films and they make very nice collector's editions of them. They restore them. They'll add commentary. They put a whole bunch of secondary information into the packaging as well. They're extremely well done in terms of the packaging. They have their own streaming service, which if you want to watch a grip of amazing movies, they're expensive. They're one of the most expensive services out there, but their movies are incredible. So very much worth it.
That's good to know. I'll check them out. And I apologize for breaking you both for 30 seconds because the absolute pause that overtook both of you. I'm sorry.
If there's an episode of the show where you don't break us, I think that's going to be the special event.
Hey, we did. I will give you credit. Last episode, I don't think you said French extremists.
You didn't.
I'm trying to withhold it until it's absolutely necessary.
All right. Anyway, back on the rails. Apologies.
It's okay. So, all right. So, Ryan, before we get to you, like I said, I've watched it dozens and dozens of times. I love this movie. Mm-hmm. I have quoted it probably way more than I should have. I'm a massive fan of it. I think extremely highly of it. Rewatching it was something I was very excited to do, as it's been, I think, a couple of years, maybe 4 or 5 years since I've watched it last. But I mean, it is, as I said, I personally love it. I think it's one of the most important movies ever made, not even just horror movies. It is the first ever horror movie to win Best Picture at the Oscars in 1991. It won all Big Five. It's only the third movie to ever win all 5 of the big Oscars, which is, of course, picture, actor, actress, director, and adapted screenplay. It won all 5 in 1991, which is incredible. The only other movies to do that, I believe, are It Happened One Night from the 30s, and then One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest also won the Big Five.
Wow.
So it was a big deal that Silence of the Lambs won all of that. And especially coming from a Valentine's Day release date. It was
wow, I didn't
know that.
Pushed back. It was pushed back from 1990 because they were too busy pushing Dances with Wolves, and they didn't want to dilute that push. They felt like they had something with Silence of the Lambs, but they did not want to dilute the Oscar push for Dances with Wolves. They pushed it back to their early year slate and said, it'll be what it is. They had no idea it was going to be an Oscar contender late in the year. It's one of the few movies to have done that from the February position.
Yeah.
That's wild.
How good it is. That's how good this movie is. I'm so excited to talk about it. Ryan, what did you know about Silence of the Lambs before you watched it for this week?
I knew very little. I knew it was about a serial killer. I knew Anthony Hopkins played the main serial killer of the movie, and I knew some of the quotes, but I also didn't know who the quotes came from, so I presumed incorrectly in some cases who the quotes were associated with. I knew obviously Hello Clarice. I knew it rubs the lotion on its skin or it gets the hose again. I mean, they're definitively two of the more iconic lines.
Do you want to know something funny?
But that's about it.
Hello, Clarice does not happen until the sequel to this movie. In this movie, it's Good Evening, Clarice.
Right, you're correct. Wow. And I knew the fava beans and Chianti line. But yeah, that's all I knew. I knew nothing else. And frankly, I was surprised upon watching that most of the movie is not about Hannibal. I thought that, like, I didn't realize going in that Hannibal is kind of a, like, I wouldn't say ancillary character, but he's a supporting role in the overall story. He's not the main villain, so to speak, of the narrative. He's like a secondary antagonist.
And yet Anthony Hopkins did win Best Actor, and it's actually the second shortest time on screen ever to win Best Actor. David Niven won it for Separate Tables in 1958 at 23 minutes, 39 seconds. Anthony Hopkins on screen for 24 minutes, 52 seconds of screen time, and he wins Best Actor.
And every second of it is masterful, in my opinion. He killed it. And the other thing too is I was really surprised overall, not only at the tone of the movie, it reminded me a lot of Seven. It felt I felt like Seven kind of drew a lot from this movie in terms of parallels of like how it was built, the kind of the chase of the serial killer. I was surprised how few people actually die in it. I was surprised that it left the ending so open-ended. There's a lot of stuff that like I really didn't anticipate going into this movie that I really, really enjoyed. But the level of detail and the mastery of those scenes, the writing is so detailed and like the characterization is so good. I enjoyed almost every
Were you
second.
scared by it at all? Did it scare you at any point?
Not really. It's more suspensey kind of mystery, I think, than it is like it felt horror to me. Like there were some gruesome moments, sure. And there's definitely some discomfort that they build in suspense. But I would like I almost wouldn't classify it as like a horror had I not known the lens through it was. Kind of the same way I felt with Scream. Like it didn't feel like a horror movie. It felt like a whodunit mystery thriller to me.
And which is funny because when it came out, it got a lot of flack for being too gross, too intense. It was very much a horror movie when it came out.
Yeah, which
actually makes me wonder. Like, did it seem cliche to you? Did it seem like it was cliched, or did it actually like seem like it was still fresh and new?
No. So I think part of it is, and I'll soapbox for half a second. I love like tactical, manipulative villains. I am all about the like coding of the words and like the sideways language and like the just like breaking other people down in front of them. Like I love that level of like mastermind villain work. And even just from the moment he's introduced, you come around that corner and he's standing stock straight, just waiting. And I was like, he hasn't said a word yet, and I'm already in love with this character. This character is so meticulously crafted. And I'm a fanboy now, literally. Like it was the detail of the fact that they like were able to nuance the writing to have like all these little hints within his lines. The nuance of one of my favorite catches was in the scene where she's interrogating him and they have the give and take agreement of you answer a question, I answer a question.
Quo.
He will turn away from her when he is asking her questions that he wants her to answer and he is listening. But then when he turns towards her, he will give her information and answer her things directly and give her hints. And then when he feels that he's done, he will turn the other way and switch. And it was like this physical movement associated with which part of the quid pro quo are we on, is which way he's looking. And
so and at some point I want to get back to the blocking because sightlines, vision is definitely a massive part of the direction and the intention of this movie. But I actually want to throw it over to Dan real quick here because I want to know if when Dan watched it, if he felt like it was still as intense as it used to be back in the day, or if you were like, if it was dulled for you after all these years.
It was even more captivating. It was like, I forgot how immediate it got into the action of it all. I for some reason I thought that like Hannibal Lecter came in much later in the movie, but it was like boom, finding Clarice, getting her off of training to then immediately, you got to go see this guy and talk to him. And that surprised me. I forgot about how quickly they got into it all. And I was like, I forgot all the puzzle pieces, how they were fitting together so well that it just kind of was like, I even started to appreciate it more so. And I mean, yeah, just like, watching Anthony Hopkins again in this role is he's just incredible just watching it. But, even Jodie Foster is just captivating too. Every moment that she's on screen, and like just this character that she embodies is just incredible to watch too grow the character growth in this movie.
It's wild because so they
great.
both weren't originally supposed to play these characters. Jeremy Irons was actually the first person they asked to play Lecter in this movie, and actually Brian Cox played him in Manhunter, which Michael Mann did before this, which was the first movie that Hannibal Lecter ever appeared in, it was also based on a book by Thomas Harris, and it got remade as Red Dragon. But that being said, yeah, Jodie Foster and and Anthony Hopkins did not win those Oscars for no reason. And Jodie Foster was actually, that part was going to be played by Michelle Pfeiffer.
Wow.
And Meg Ryan was also asked to play the role. They both turned it down. Meg Ryan turned it down because of the content of the movie, and Michelle Pfeiffer turned it down because they didn't want to pay her $2 million. And then Jodie Foster ended up doing the movie because she met with Jonathan Demme, and he said, you know what, her intensity and want and desire for this is what Clarice needs to have. And so he wanted her to bring that to it. And they both did a ton of work. You guys both were talking about the detail in their performances. Jodie Foster did a ton of work with the FBI. The FBI were extremely cooperative with this movie. They actually saw it as a possible way to recruit more female FBI agents.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
That's cool. I could see that.
And so they actually did film at Quantico. The FBI's behavioral science unit did actually contribute a lot to this movie. Actually, Jodie Foster spent a lot of time with an FBI agent named Mary Ann Krause, who gave her a lot of information. And Mary Ann Krause, the scene where Jodie Foster first meets Lecter and he mentally breaks her down and she ends up crying on her car out in the parking lot, her Pinto, that scene was not in the script. That was actually suggested by Mary Ann Krause, saying that sometimes this job just gets overwhelming. And they were like, you know what? We should have a scene where Clarice gets broken, like breaks down.
Yeah.
And this just gets overwhelmed.
That's poignant, especially like where it's placed. And honestly, like her character really reminded me a lot of the actress who plays, I think it's Elizabeth Moss. She, like, there was a lot of parallels to me of like characters that Elizabeth Moss has played with this Jodie Foster character. And I think the professionalism she carries throughout, and the kind of the sub themes too of misogyny throughout the movie, of like her kind of constantly fighting the sexism of all the men that are around her at all times. That was very poignant throughout the movie, I think. The one piece of trivia I have that it fed me when I started the movie. I was watching it on Prime, and it fed me a trivia point when I started. Anthony Hopkins was selected for this role because of his role in Elephant Man. And the director said specifically that he wanted to channel some of that into this role. And apparently Anthony Hopkins came back and said, well, my role in Elephant Man is from a good man. Why would you want me to play Lecter? And the director told him, well, Lecter believes himself to be a good man. He is a good man trapped in the mind of a psychopath. And that's what partially informed Hopkins. Like,
if you ever look at any good villain, any really good villain performance, actors will always say, oh, I just make myself the guy who's right. In my head, I'm right. I know Alan Rickman said that about Die Hard. Hans Gruber completely believes he's in the right. And so Lecter, of course, is the same way. Yeah, no, Hopkins actually had well,
those are the scariest villains.
Because they feel the most real. And it's funny because as much of a bit of a cartoon character as Lecter is in some ways, you know, they play him as being a little bit omniscient. He's got superpowers. He can like smell way more than an average person or whatever. I mean, and they played into that. You know, I think that Hopkins wanted him to be a little bit supernatural in a way. He said, I wanted him to be like a reptile. He only blinks when he wants to blink. And it was so creepy. At the time, Anthony Hopkins was dating Martha Stewart, and she broke up with him because she couldn't stop seeing Lecter.
Wow.
Oh no.
It ruined his real life relationship.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It was a fascinating part for him, but it's funny because for me, Lecter, the more I watched the movie, the more times I've seen the movie, obviously Lecter is the fireworks. Lecter is the really interesting thing. As you say, you come around the corner, he's there with his white jumpsuit, which they insisted on. Anthony Hopkins said, I'm terrified of dentists. I want him to look like a dentist. They insisted on the white jumpsuit. He's the only person who's got the clear glass cage, which isn't from the book. The book, he's got bars with just a net behind the bars, but they wanted the glass because it was more cinematic. You could see through it. You could do reflections as they do in this, right? All of that it's super cool. But the more I watch the movie, and Ryan, you just touched upon it, was this movie isn't about Lecter. Lecter is, he's the big interesting thing in the middle of it. The whole rest of the movie, and every time I see it, it's more and more terrifying to me because I realize that it's about how scary it is to just be a woman every single day of their lives. And if you watch this movie, there's two tricks that Demi uses to do this. The first thing he does is almost all the time, there's a guy looking at Jodie Foster, and not always in a nice way. She gets into an elevator. It's full of men. They look at her dispassionately. She's running on the track with her friend. A group of guys pass them. They turn around and look. She's in the coroner's office. She's got all the police gathered around her, and they're giving her these dirty looks. It's all guys looking at her the entire movie. It's the male gaze the entire movie. And the trick that Demi does to put us in her shoes is all the men direct address the camera. You've got Scott Glenn, the brilliant Scott Glenn, playing Jack Crawford, who's based on a real-life FBI agent named John Douglas. You have him direct addressing the camera. You have Lecter direct addressing the camera. You've got the psychologist. You've got Chilton. Frederick Chilton. There it is. Dr. Chilton, that slime ball.
Chilton.
He direct addresses.
Absolutely.
Oh, he's such a scumbag.
As soon as he's on camera.
When you're stuck in that office with all of the hick cops, and she says, y'all need to leave now, you cut to a shot of them all staring right at you and giving you that shitty look that, you're just some little girl. What are you going to do telling me what to do? Jodie Foster she only direct addresses you, I think, once or twice during her monologues. For the most part, she's slightly off center of the camera because you're in her perspective. Everything is to make you feel under a gaze, the entire movie. And that's something that, like, the more I've watched the movie, the more I really appreciate how Lecter is the sugar in the spoon. The medicine is this movie is about every day sucks to be a woman.
Well, and even the main FBI agent that's like working with Jodie Foster's character multiple times throughout the movie uses her, deceives her, like basically she's
Jack
just a tool in order to get what he wants.
He even says, "Hey, sorry I had to throw you under the bus back there." And she goes, "No, they look to you for how to treat me, and it matters." Right? It's a great comeback moment for her where she asserts herself. And it helps that Jodie Foster is 5'2" nothing. Tiny little 28, 29-year-old Jodie Foster. She's this little tiny thing. She's got the Southern accent, so she seems extra kind of vulnerable. Oh, I'm just a demure little thing. It all works together to make her, they shoot her low. They don't have her fill the screen. They show you how small she is. And then at the end of this movie, they send her in to a killer's den. And at the time, that was not something you saw. You never saw a den like that. You never saw a kill. These days, killers' lairs are all over the place because of this movie. Because it was so iconic. You mentioned Seven, right? That's the movie that really took it to the next level. You go into the killer's house there. It's one of the best set decorated killer's houses of all time. Seven is legendary. Wouldn't exist without Silence of the Lambs.
Agreed. Very much agreed. And I think just seeing not only throughout the film, the way they focus on like the way that they do handshakes, all the different gazes, all these different elements that play into it, but then also in a weird twisted way, the fact that Hannibal out of everyone almost seems to be the one that respects her in a strange way. He breaks her down, but he plays the game, and when she's able to play back, he almost has this like begrudging respect for like, oh, she can keep up. I can continue my game. And like, yeah, there's a little bit of misogyny there too, but out of all of the characters, it's almost like he respects her in a way that she's not getting from all the normal men.
It's because he's the one that actually he has some sort of desire for her, but it's strictly intellectual. He doesn't really in the books. In the second book, there's kind of a weird sexualized thing, but in this particular book, he has no sexual feelings for her whatsoever. He's one of the few guys in this movie that don't have some sort of weird male-female dynamic with her. he's the one he's got a wall of glass. He's got bars between them the entire time. There's one time where he physically touches her.
And there's only one point where he makes any sort of reference, and it's the I think it would be nice to know you in private life, which is like a little bit of a barbed comment, but even then. But
that does speak to kind of the movie's theme, is that even Lecter is a threat.
Yes.
But it's more so because he'll eat you, as opposed to any of the other things that he'll do. But that's part of the horror of it, isn't it? Only thing he's going to do is eat me. Miggs does something worse to her in the first 5 minutes.
Correct.
Like it's so insulting. It's so horrific. It actually makes Lecter raise his voice for the only time he raises his voice in the entire movie. Makes ejaculates on her face. And Lecter is so desperate for any kind of intellectual stimulation that he screams at her, "Come back, do this. I'm sorry about that. Here's a clue. Please come back."
Yeah.
And it's an amazing dynamic, but it's also playing into the kind of misogyny that the movie's really talking about.
The whole movie is an illustration of why women choose the bear. That's this whole Silence of the Lambs is a movie of why women choose the bear.
And it's become more thought of in that way. And the thing I appreciate about it is that it's not preachy. It's one of those things that as you watch it and you soak into it, like because you have Hannibal Lecter there almost kind of doing, the distraction, right? It's the flashy thing on the side. Don't look at the deeper meanings here because it's subtle. It's not in the script as much as it's in the descriptions, but it's not in dialogue so much as it's in the direction, as it's in the camera angles, as it's in the performances. It's in the whole thing put together. You get that feeling of, I don't know why I'm uncomfortable.
Man, I did not even realize that, but now it just like clicked. It just completely makes sense. Just the way that he even shot people, the men looking straight and addressing the camera, and Jodie Foster's kind of off to the side. I did not even. I have to watch it again.
And
now.
Hopkins actually, to make Lecter seem more somewhat asexual, he actually based the voice of Lecter off of Truman Capote, a gay man, and Katharine Hepburn. Those were his two inspirations for the voice.
Wow.
Interesting.
Just to try to take some of the masculinity off the edge of masculinity off of them. So, and then conversely, you've got, as far as threats to femininity. Don't
hurt yourself, kid.
You've got Buffalo Bill.
Yeah, honestly, that's a whole nother layer to this, I feel like, because admittedly, this movie is slightly dated. It's not as old as some of the other movies that we've watched, but obviously trans rights is a very important topic and like hot topic in the modern zeitgeist. It's a very important thing. And this trans topics of any kind back then were a lot more taboo, were a lot more touchy. And also, I think a lot more shoved under the rug. It wasn't something that you addressed as much as we're able to discuss and actually like appreciate and deal with today. I do think that is one aspect of this movie that I think, whether it's a relic of the time or whether it's just the fact that it's like kind of ancillary to the actual thematic of the movie of, as we discuss femininity and the gender roles within there. I'm not sure that this movie handles the trans angle super well. There's elements of it that I think are very ahead of its time. I think that the conversation where Lecter specifically is speaking with Jodie Foster's character, Lecter speaking to Starling and talks about, they're analyzing Buffalo Bill's character and talk about how he believes himself to be trans because of the fact that he is uncomfortable.
I'm actually going to stop you there because he actually says he's not transsexual. He openly says he's not transsexual. He's something far more dangerous because transsexuals are inherent. They tend to be very passive. This is actually a line in the movie and it often gets overlooked, and people have actually very much the LGBTQ and the trans community specifically have come down on this movie and said it set trans representation back by decades. And it might be because the movie doesn't clarify enough that Buffalo Bill is not trans, nor is he truly gay.
Exactly.
He doesn't even know what he is. Lecter even points out he's very confused and he hates himself. He wants to be anything other than what he is. And he's fixated in this particular reason, for some reason, on women. He wants to be a woman because he just doesn't want to be anything to do with himself. And it doesn't mean that he's trans.
And I think that like that was the one moment that I caught that I was like, okay, I feel like this is handled properly in the way that they separate it, because I agree. I don't think that the actual representation is very represented. And granted, I will also put an asterisk on this. I do not speak for the LGBT community. I am a straight white male. Like, I don't want to like pretend that I know the slightest thing about the perspective of the people in those shoes. Like I cannot speak for them, and I do not want to be misunderstood to speak for them. I just, as somebody who was absorbing the media, I felt like that was the one moment of the movie that I felt like they made that separation. And to your point, I don't think they made that separation it was a footnote of the scene, and it needed to be a more prominent point of the scene, because I do think that the rest of the representation is not a very healthy representation. And at no point does it ever redeem or clarify that once it gets rolling with it. And it is a very prominent portion of the movie. Like the fact that it is a modus operandi for his killings is very important for
not
the
just
narrative.
Killings, but the stuff he does afterwards too. And I mean, one of the most iconic
Correct.
scenes in the movie is, of course, Ted Levine dancing naked with his dick tucked between his legs. You know, would you fuck me? I'd fuck me. You know, like,
well, I think that I think what I was gonna to Ryan's point is what I was gonna say is the visuals of the movie are so powerful that you have this important note that, you know, coming from it again, like I forgot that, like you forget that moment, sadly, of them actually making that separation, because it's in a conversational scene that might not be visually as stimulating as seeing Ted Levine wearing the skin and just looking this graphically, like, kind of frightening, doing this thing, and that's what you remember. So I think it's like the visuals don't help the cause, so to speak, I guess you could say.
No, I think you're right. I think it is very striking, the presentation of Buffalo Bill as being a man who's trying to be a woman, and obviously taken in the context of the movie that's trying to say, you know, how scary it is to be a woman, and here's a man who wants to take your skin and become you. That fits really well with the theme, but at the same time, there are a whole subset of people are, you know, born inside that they are women. They are really women. They want to become women, but without this kind of danger and malice and fear that we associate with Buffalo Bill. So it is, as you say, Ryan, like, and that's as for someone who watched it the first time, the fact that wasn't still to this day, it was not made clear enough in the movie, where you said, this is actually, it's not showing trans people in a very good light. Even though the movie does actually say Buffalo Bill isn't trans, it's not enough because the visuals are so striking.
Correct. I agree. And I think it also, like, even digging deeper into Buffalo Bill as a character, one of the things that I caught is that he, most of the victims of Buffalo Bill are already dead during the actual timeline of the movie, with the exception of the senator's daughter who gets kidnapped, right? We see the senator.
We don't see him kill anyone the entire time.
Correct. And all of the other victims are implied to have already been dead by the time that all of this is occurring. And so the only victim that we actually witness is the daughter that he actively kidnaps and then holds. And then we do get to see some of their interactions. And in those interactions, he doesn't refer to her by name. He doesn't refer to her by gender. He refers to her as it. It will do this. It will do that. And she is literally an object. He is dehumanizing her even in the way that he addresses her, in order to, whether that's for his own subconscious or whatever. And then they touch on it when they see the senator's message
calling her by her name.
She keeps using the name. She's trying to humanize her to try and make a relationship with the daughter.
Yeah, one of the reasons the movie is so captivating is because it is so intelligent psychologically. It gets so many things right. And even the psychology of Buffalo Bill, where they point out he may have gone for trans surgery a few times and he was rejected on psychological grounds. You know, and the fact that you're literally a movie about a psychologist, a crazy psychologist who's so intelligent, you can't pussyfoot around it. This has got to be a smart movie. There has to be a lot of research done, not only by the director, but by the writers, the actors. Everyone's got to be on their A game here. And they were. They absolutely were. Like, you know, I think that you hit on a good point that they and Demi has even said, like, yeah, I if I could go back, I would make that more clear.
Yeah. Because honestly, I think that's like one of the only failings of the movie. I think that the level of detail, I think that the way that they interweave his language and his hints, the fact that they're like analyzing the fact that we can follow the location of the pen, like every single detail seems to be on point. And this is like the only detail that really feels like was not only a miss, but kind of an important miss. Kind of what a little sub point too, I think that's interesting. I recently heard that on the same note of humanizing the victims, right? Of creating that relationship. I heard that there are people who will write notes in their cars and leave like $5 with a note in their car for if their car ever gets stolen. And if the car gets stolen and somebody sees the note and they're like, hey, like, I'm sorry you're going through a rough time. Like, here's $5. I understand that times can be tough. Like, I hope that this might serve as a way to kind of brighten your day a little bit. That sometimes that can be a deterrent from your car getting stolen. Because like at that point, you've created a relationship with the person and they have to think about the person on the other end, and that sometimes people will take the money and not steal the car. And I think that it's like that's a level of detail that you don't really anticipate just in a movie for what's ultimately like a 3-minute scene amongst the 2-hour movie.
Yeah, but you have to also understand that Thomas Harris is doing a ton of research on this, and the behavioral sciences unit of the FBI, that's all they do. They swim in human psychology all day, every day, trying to essentially become psychics and figure out what people are going to do before they do it. So it's actually makes sense that, you know, a bit of that would chip off on this movie for how things actually work, and actual psychopathy and actual police work and actual FBI work. Like it's a remarkably detailed movie, and it's still relevant to this day, but it made a lot of people very fascinated with police work, with FBI work. And you can actually see, as you said, Seven came along 5 years later, 4 years later, 95.
Was it only 5?
I think it was the end of.
Why do you think it was
end
much
of 95?
later?
I thought it was like 10 to 15.
Seven was, I believe, fall of 95. I'm going to double check myself on that.
It is 1995. That's correct.
And also, of course, Kiss the Girls and The Bone Collector and so many other serial killer.
Oh, those came out like right after.
Yeah, Morgan Freeman made a career off of it for a little bit, and you know, police procedurals with a serial killer, and he's really creepy and blah 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 blah. What was the other one with the Sigourney Weaver, Copycat? There's a whole bunch of them that came out, and then of course you had all the cop TV shows. NYPD Blue, Law and Order still going now as a result. CSI CSI is basically Silence of the Lambs, the TV show without the Hannibal Lecters, right?
But and correct me if I'm wrong here. I always assumed that those like the Murder She Wrotes and the Blue Bloods and stuff all led to like the CSIs and the
yes,
Law
you're
and
right.
Orders.
There is an element of that, but look how gritty everything got after Silence of the Lambs came along, and all of a sudden we're seeing dissections, we're seeing actual, like, we're getting into the morgues, we're getting into the gritty serial, like we found the crime scenes, and here's her fingernail over here, and here's part of her ear over here. You know, everything got a lot darker after this movie. And it's funny because at the time, again, I'll say it was when this movie came out, everyone was like, this is the scariest, darkest thing we've ever seen. And you guys both said, it's barely a horror movie.
This is so fascinating to me because I've always considered horror as a genre to be really like pretty aggressive. Like, I would never have categorized, like, outside of obviously knowing, I said it before with Scream, if I didn't know Scream was a horror movie and you showed me Scream, I felt like Scream would be like kind of like a comedy thriller. Like, this movie feels more like I've seen Seven. I would never have categorized Seven as a horror movie, and this feels like Seven. I always considered Seven to be like a thriller mystery, like mastermind drama. And it's so interesting that all of that, my conception of horror is so late in the development of horror that my definition of horror is literally different than your guys.
The evolution begins. This is beautiful. I'd love that. I can't wait to take you back and make you watch like a Hammer horror film, which was rated X. Movies that were rated X in Britain when they were released in the 1950s and 1960s, because they showed some blood and because they you actually like saw someone get murdered. And it is a horror film, full stop. you could show it to kids now. Like they show harder edge stuff on Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing how these things shift and change.
Which is great for the record. We're not going to drag Avatar.
I'm not
here.
dragging Avatar. I'm saying
I know.
This is one of the reasons I'm so happy that we're doing the show. And we're starting with these particular ones. We all the first movies we're doing are within, I think, about a 5-year period. Scream and Silence of the Lambs and 976 Evil.
I think we spread 9. It was because
96.
Scream was 97.
Okay, so like 9 years.
96, 97. So it's like 8 or 9
within
years.
A decade.
We've got about a decade.
And it's amazing how much bloodier Scream is than these two movies. And just seeing the disparity there. Ryan, we have such sights to show you.
Honestly, so just while we're on this topic, I've thought a lot about how modern horror with CGI capabilities and face mimicking capabilities has such depth that you were just not able to create in the 80s. Of like, if you were to make The Exorcist, right? Like I've seen The Exorcist. The Exorcist did a lot of the like body horror crawling, like roof
spider
stuff.
walk, head turning around, pea soup.
Exactly. And like a lot of that stuff's very terrifying. But is, to be fair, at least partially limited by the fact that it's mostly physical effects.
It's 100% physical effects.
With the cape
and lighting.
And the fact that like we have CGI capabilities now that like the horror of our imaginations could be potentially portrayed in a convincing way on screen. Like I am trepidatious to see the evolution of horror be like into the modern future.
I have to ask Dan a question here. Dan, have you ever seen a horror movie where the CGI creates something that was scarier to you than a practical effect?
Never.
Really?
Look, the CGI. Okay, maybe I can't say never, because if the CGI was good, then it was hidden and I didn't know it was CGI. But typically, when I find that they use too much CGI in horror, is because they're trying to push the envelope too much to capture what they probably shouldn't be trying to show anyways, and maybe like you let our imagination take hold a bit more. But I think that's why we still like some of the best horror movies that people are still trying to make, even when they're making movies now, is from the 80s, because it was a good blend of practical effects. Or if you go into the 90s and you can have somebody like Spielberg who can blend practical with CGI so well. Like, why is Jurassic Park look so incredible still to this, it's what, 30 years old now? It's because the practical, you've got to mix that in. So I got to say that, like, as much as we can like bend reality and like create what we want with CGI, at times I just feel like it just takes me out of what it is, and I want to feel it. I want to see it. Like in a practical effect, you can feel it. Like the actors and the talent and the camera can just see that thing happening in front. And that's just so much more powerful than whatever a computer can create. I
can tell you right now, Ryan, as we get further into this lovely podcast and we all watch many more horror movies of varying degrees of intensity, because right now, so far, we've watched, as I said, a few from, one from the late 80s, one from the very beginning of the 90s, one from the mid to late 90s. We haven't gotten into what I think you would consider the more intense stuff, because things have gotten more intense since Silence of the Lambs, which was intense at the time, but now you shrug off and be like, this is just a thriller. But it's going to get more intense because it's not just CGI, practical effects have gotten better. I just watched Terrifier 3 this last weekend.
Oh my God.
And
I haven't seen
all
it yet.
practical effects. And it's some of the gnarliest stuff I've ever seen, all done completely in camera. I don't know if it's CGI per se. It's the filmmaking. And one of the reasons why Silence of the Lambs still gets under people's skins is the filmmaking is just so good. And the acting is just so good. And
Did this come right before or after Philadelphia?
Oh.
Because Jonathan Demme directed
this was before,
that too. Like
this was before Philadelphia.
Was it before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Philadelphia was from 1993.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was that, and then Forrest Gump was 94. So
shout outs to 94.
Yeah.
Oh, you baby.
My.
Little baby. It's so
Jonathan,
so cute.
I mean, Jonathan Demme's he was such a, his films, some of the most, just like the style is like beautiful blend of cinematic documentary, if you can kind of blend the two, where it just feels realistic. Like, for instance, some of the coolest moments, even earlier on in the film, was like when they kept pulling Clarice out of her training to take her to other, like, to be a part of this, like, hunt. They would, like, cut to the realistic moments of, like, the FBI training and seeing, like, how, like, this is the behind the scenes look. Like, this is what they really do.
Yeah.
And it just made it feel very real. And that's what I love.
It was at Quantico.
Like, everything felt very real.
They were like, should we keep it this mundane here at Quantico? Yeah, that's how it actually is. Let's make it as real as possible. The production design, the cinematography, Tak Fujimoto, one of the greatest cinematographers to have never gotten an Oscar, shot this movie. He did The Sixth Sense. He did a few M. Night Shyamalan movies. He did Philadelphia as well, actually, come to think of it. He's Cocoon. Like he's a Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Fantastic cinematographer. You had an incredible group of talents on this movie to make the whole come together. And ultimately what you got is an all-time classic. And it's great because we can look back on it now and see, we can trace the line that it left, all the things that it inspired, all the things that it pushed the boundaries of. I personally think that if you really watch the movie, it doesn't, I don't think it's actually anti-trans, but I can absolutely see how.
I would even argue that it's not necessarily that the movie's anti-trans. It's just the fact that it handles a nuanced topic poorly enough that then the experience, or at least the takeaway on the topic,
it's too general. It doesn't specify what it's doing with this character who is possibly transgender, possibly cross-dressing, whatever is going on with this character. It's not really addressed enough.
Just a deranged
because I think they're trying to keep the mystery. It's more scary when it's mysterious. Moving on, guys. I just want to do one last thing before we wrap this all up here, and that is, what do we think? I know that Ryan, you haven't seen any of the sequels. What did you know about Hannibal Lecter? Did you know he was a cannibal?
I knew he was a cannibal. I knew about the skin face, but I didn't know that it was the police officer. I thought that was like a victim. Like I'd seen jokes about, and I presume it's from a different movie, but I'd seen people do like the tongue thing, like where they flick the tongue through.
I think
the
Jim
skin
Carrey
mask.
did it in a movie, right?
Probably.
You need to silence.
Oh yeah, with the bacon cable guy.
Yeah,
cable guy. Yeah.
Cable guy. Yeah.
There's a couple references I'd seen of that, so I knew about the skin face trope as well. I guess I missed that earlier in the episode, but basically what I knew about him was that he was a cannibal and that he had a relationship with a woman named Clarice that I thought was a victim. That was I thought going into the movie, based off of what I'd heard, that he ended up capturing Clarice. And that most of the lines that I knew seemed to fit together in that narrative. But beyond him being like a cannibal and like doing the skin face thing and some of the key lines, I knew basically nothing. And so coming out of it, I'm like, I want to watch the rest of the franchise. Like I want to see, especially because I expected more Hannibal. I didn't expect Hannibal to be a supportive.
Well, and Thomas Harris and Ridley Scott and everyone who had everything to do with the franchise afterwards give you what you want. It's all Hannibal all the time, and Clarice becomes a background character, which is really funny considering this movie is all about how much it sucks to be a woman and how it's a man's world and what did the franchise become. But hey, the really flashy guy, let's go talk about him some more.
Yeah. Well, also the fact that the movie ends with him just walking off.
Which is, by the way, I think one of the greatest endings in cinematic history.
Yeah, that was good. It's so good.
As either if you close a door or if you have an eternal walk away. This and Raiders of the Lost Ark with the drive off into the big warehouse. This with the walk off that doesn't end. Or doors closing like the end of Blade Runner Final Cut. Like anytime you have that, it's a perfect ending to me. But Dan, I wanted to ask you, and then we'll close on out of here. What do you feel is the legacy of the franchise? Obviously, it's still going on, as you say. Like we've got a TV show now. There's more movies being developed. We've got Hannibal Rising about young Hannibal, his background. Should it have been all about Hannibal? Do you like where they went with it? Do you like where it's still going?
I think that I was let down by Hannibal, the sequel to Silence of the Lambs, Ridley Scott's.
Be glad it wasn't the original script where they actually, Hannibal actually, I think, brainwashes Clarice into having sex with him.
Yeah, there's this whole like nightmarish, sleepy feel to the whole movie, where it's like it feels like a dream, and it feels like it's like let's do Hannibal but Man on Fire style. So like there's just these weird camera fluttery things all the time, and of course there's just I won't spoil it for you because you should watch it. It's still like an interesting watch, but there's a great Ray Liotta scene you must see. So just sitting through the movie just to get to that ending is pretty well worth it. I
would love to be a fly on the wall to watch Ryan's reaction to the Ray Liotta scene.
What is the word that you're saying?
Ray Liotta.
The actor Ray Liotta. What do you mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the word that you were saying. I don't know who Ray Liotta is.
Oh God!
Oh my God!
I'm sorry.
Let
me look her up.
That's it.
Is it a man or a woman?
It's a man. Goodfellas.
Ray Liotta.
Copland.
Ryan.
No, narc, nothing.
Wow.
Apparently he's in Cocaine Bear.
He is. It's one of his last roles. Yes. R.I.P. Ray Liotta. By the way, that was a sad day.
So I would say that like I was let down by that, and that kind of turned me off. The new Red Dragon was okay. That was all right. It was. I mean, I think it was nice to see.
I liked Ray Fiennes. I like Ray Fiennes as the Red Dragon.
I think that if you see Michael Mann's version, you're like, oh well, I think Michael Mann was like pulling something off better.
You can't beat Tom Noonan.
So I would say that like I felt like the franchise was like, I don't think they need more of these until the television show, because that television show is just some of the most beautiful cinematography that you will ever see. The character development of Will and with Hannibal and their relationship, and this like there's so many undertones and there's so much going on in that, and it's so gross sometimes too, and like just the killers that they bring in, the visuals, man, that show really turned it around and was like, wow, this now did something with Hannibal Lecter that should have been done, in the past, in the other film versions. But I think that series is fantastic.
It doesn't hurt to get Mads Mikkelsen playing Hannibal Lecter either. That does not hurt at all. Well, I agree with you. I think the franchise definitely lost its way for a while. Maybe it's back on track now. So, Ryan, if you want to catch up with the franchise, you have quite a bit to do, as well as figuring out who Ray Liotta is.
Yeah, geez,
I'm looking at his IMDb. I think the only movie that I've seen him in that he plays a role that I like would physically see him.
This is gonna hurt.
Is Field of Dreams.
Okay. All right. That's a good one. That's a good one.
And he's so young that he plays Shoeless Joe Jackson. Everything else that he's...
You really haven't seen Goodfellas at all?
I don't think so.
Oh God. Okay. Well, we've got to this. Oh, it hurts so bad. We have to
go. Can like we could actually cut this out if we want, but I really have to talk about this one set piece that's in Silence of the Lambs that we kind of haven't talked about, but I feel like it has been copied so much now that you got to talk about it. Like if you're talking about Silence of the Lambs, the cutting back and forth of Clarice going to the house and the FBI raid, and you think that they're going to catch him, and then boom, she's there at Buffalo Bill, was such a like that has been copied now so many times in these types of thrillers.
It was copied in Speed.
Yeah,
everything copied it.
Was that the first time it was done? Because I'm going to be honest, watching that scene for the first time, I was like saying out loud, there's no way it's this house. There's no way it's the right one. But I even predicting that, I did not expect her to be the one at the door of Bill's, because like going all the way leading up to it, I'm like, they're at the wrong house. There's no way they're at the right house. And then they did the doorbell thing with by the way, the sound effect on that bell, terrifying. That like basement bell, so well designed. But the minute that they did the doorbell with the basement bell, I was like, it actually put me. I was like, they didn't actually have the right house, did they?
They still got you, despite how much that has been copied. They still got you. And I can't say it's the first time it was ever done, but it's certainly, I agree.
So starting there and then ending with the night vision scene is just, that is terrifyingly well crafted. And, you have movies like Don't Breathe that did that basically kind of took that scene and kind of recreated it too years later. So it just, that whole set piece is so iconic and really kind of, influenced the thriller horror genre for years after that.
I absolutely agree. And actually, Ryan, you brought up the house. You know, it's funny that actually the house they shot in was actually Ted Levine, his high school girlfriend's next door neighbor.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, they went to shoot the house. He's like, my high school girlfriend lived next door to this. Come on.
That's wild. No, honestly, like, yeah, it got me at the very last second. And even then when it got me, that I was like, oh, they are at his house. Then when it opened the door and it was her, I was like, that reveal, that was an oh shit moment for sure. So that was really, really well crafted.
All right. Well, so we have to get out of here. So we have to explain why someone died in this movie. Dan, do you have a "this is why you died" moment for this movie?
Well, I think because I love that set piece so much, Buffalo Bill died because he opened the door. Maybe should have not opened the door.
Don't open it. Don't follow a woman around in the dark with a Colt 40, or I guess with 357 Colt Python pointed at her head. And also, by the way, it's double action. You don't have to cock the damn thing. He died. I'll actually, I'm going to jump on you. He did because the door, don't open the door. I'm going to say, don't cock the gun. It's a Colt Python. It's a double action. Pull the trigger. Don't cock the damn thing, because that's how it gives it time to turn around, shoot you in the face, and then you die like a bug on the ground.
Not to mention, he totally hesitated for way longer than he needed to. He had every opportunity to kill her. There's a whole thing where he like almost reaches out and touches her before he shoots her. Like, he could have shot her.
Yeah, he was having fun.
Because he was enjoying his power over women.
Yes, which is still a mistake.
That's another. That's why you died. You gloated about having power over a woman. Toxic masculinity. That's why you died.
Honestly, I think he's the only one we see die. Oh no, that is the police officer.
I was gonna say, you got a couple of cops that died.
Yeah, they got beat pretty bad.
Like, honestly, wasn't really their fault. It was mostly Chilton's fault. But we will say, didn't check the hands on the major mastermind criminal. When you literally actually handcuffed them, you didn't have him open his hands.
A lot of people did not follow the rules. You were given very clear rules on what to do and what not to do with Hannibal Lecter, and you didn't follow the rules.
Literally, the guy who gave the rules didn't follow the rules.
He's the one who screwed up the most. It's over time, you know, your percentages drastic go down. So, all right, we have reached the end of our episode of Silence of the Lambs. All because Ryan saw a bug. He saw the moth.
We got to do the skull ratings.
We have to do the skull ratings. We absolutely are. The Salvador Dali skull ratings. You know, those are actually real moths. They actually exist.
Wow. That doesn't surprise me at all.
They're real moths. They're called a death's head hawk moth. They're African. And actually, dude, their Latin names are really cool. It's Acherontia. I know it's based on the Greek. It's like one of the tributaries of the Styx, the Acheron, right? So the name Acherontia, and there's 3 different versions of the moth. There's the Acherontia atropos, the Acherontia lachesis, and the Acherontia styx, which pisses me off because you've got.
Are you're fact checking this?
He's fact checking me.
No. You said you weren't sure, so I was trying to assist. I was gonna if you weren't sure, I was gonna back you up, and then you got them all, and I was like, he's right. That's correct.
Okay,
I'm just trying to help.
But okay, here's trivia on the trivia, and I'll let my glasses relax here. So it's supposed to be Atropos, Lachesis, and Clotho. Those are actually the 3 weavers of fate in Greek mythology. Oh. Atropos is the cutter of the thread. Lachesis is the one who determines how much thread you get, and Clotho is the weaver. But in this,
the fates,
correct, the fates. If you ever played God of War 2, you'd know that. But
or seen Hercules,
that works too. But instead, they called them the Atropos, Lachesis, and Styx, the actual river of death. But yes, they are actually moths. So we have watched the movie based on bugs. Now, Ryan, it is time for you to draw a new prompt for your next movie.
Well, I do. We should do our skull rating.
I think that's a great idea.
Good point. Great point.
You get your hand in there.
My hand's in there, digging around in my Avengers bucket. I still got the Avengers bucket.
Got to go all the way past Chris Pratt.
It's got to last.
Just joining the show, Ryan has an Avengers bucket to draw his prompts out of. Meanwhile, Dan has a pumpkin bucket, and I have a skull.
I'm reaching past Scarlett Johansson.
All right, do you have it? Don't tell us what it is. Don't tell us what it is. Hold on to it. Dan, what is your skull rating for Silence of the Lambs?
Let's just get crazy and let's just throw out a 10.
Ooh!
Let's just go for it because
We'll take that.
It's just so good. It's
wow. Our first 10 out of 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Although not that we ever rated Scream. We should probably rate Scream before we get out of here too.
True.
Just to be
That's
consistent. I'm gonna let Ryan go last so he can polish off with his cue that he just drew. I am also gonna go out on a limb here and give Silence of the Lambs a stone cold 10 out of 10 skulls.
There you
Wow.
There we are. Look at
I
that.
mean, I don't think I can give it the full 10. I
Ugh.
loved it. I loved it. It was incredible. It's
Anthony
a masterpiece.
Hopkins remembered you, and you can't give his movie
I
a 10.
can't.
Wow.
He gets he alone in the movie gets a 10. But I think for the movie overall, I'll give it a 9.5.
All right.
Okay.
I can't give it the full 10, but it very clearly deserves 9 at least. And I'll give it, I think 9.5 is fair. It's almost perfect. There's a couple topics it doesn't handle gracefully. And
Yeah, it's very fair yes, very fair.
I'll give it a 9.5.
This is only our 3rd episode. We have to have some room to grow. So,
Well,
that's fair.
should I reveal or do we want to do Scream first then?
Let's reveal it and then we'll do Scream on our way out of here. So what is your prompt for the next time that you choose a movie, which will be in 2 episodes, and you'll reveal what this prompt is, and then we'll all have to watch
Gentlemen, I'm sorry I claimed it, but I got Slasher.
Oh,
No
wow.
way.
Okay,
What?
that's
The
a
golden ticket, boy.
wide open. Now this is going to be fascinating because Ryan has no idea what a slasher is.
I know Slash is the one. It's the ubiquitous one. Like all of them, all of the Psycho and the Halloween and Freddy.
Okay.
They're
All right.
like
Sure.
All right.
If they've got a knife, it's a slasher.
Freddie didn't.
Do
Freddie
what?
had 5 knives. There's chainsaw slashers. Texas Chainsaw, technically a slasher.
Axes.
But yes, this is why it's going to be interesting to see
people
what
down.
There's a lot of tropes of slasher, which is why I'm curious to see what you pick. But the fact that we watched Scream, which was, of course, a meta interpretation of the slasher subgenre, means that it's going to be very interesting to see what you pick based on what you learned from that episode, which brings us to asking you what your skull rating would be for Scream, because we've got to actually go back and make sure we put all these ratings up here.
True.
We're still new to the podcast.
We're finding our feet on this boat.
We're getting the formatting. I'd give Scream, I think 8 skulls.
Ooh, okay.
It was entertaining. It was good. It had definitely noticeable holes. I'll give it an 8.
All right. I think an 8's a solid one.
So before the podcast, I would have said a solid 10, but I'm going to knock it down because actually after that episode, I realized that my precious baby of Scream was probably not as perfect and is not as amazing as I remembered it. So I'll knock it down a peg. I will still give it 9 skulls.
Wow. I'm shocked you didn't go 9.5. What here? He's going low. 4 for 976 Evil, 9 for Scream. And I didn't leave myself a whole lot of room with 7.5 for 976 Evil. I realized that in hindsight. I'm like, that's a little high. But as a result, and actually because of the podcast, because of what we talked about, I'm actually going to have to knock it up. I think it's actually a lot better movie than I gave it credit for. I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Wow.
There it is.
Look at that.
You rated it higher than me. That's wild.
Incredible.
It is wild.
Well, so then we've got 2 active prompts, which
so
means
I gotta
that
close
Dan's...
one out. So my prompt that I got was Locked.
Locked. And this is the movie we're going to be watching for the next episode. So when y'all come back to hear us on the next episode, we will be reviewing what movie, Daniel?
We're going to be reviewing a movie from a director that I think is a new modern master of horror. The movie is Gerald's Game.
Ooh. Oh.
Ian's face lit up, and I
goodness.
have no knowledge of this movie, so...
Ooh. Well, it's based on
I'm
a
in for
Stephen
the ride.
King. Based on a Stephen King's book.
A Stephen King book that people said was not able to be adapted.
Yeah, it's an
Unadaptable.
unadaptable
Oh,
Stephen
God.
King book.
I've never seen a Stephen King. Out of all the Stephen Kings,
Jesus
I've never
Christ.
seen any of them.
Well, here you
So
go.
this will be my first.
You're going to start off on a good foot. Mike Flanagan is the director, and I believe he wrote it as well. Probably one of the best adapters of Stephen King's works, and also probably one of the best horror brains out there right now. So
I wish the audience could hear your eye rolls sometimes, the two of you. I was like, I've never seen a Stephen King, and both of you lean back for viewers at home.
I took a deep breath and I kept going. I would like to say I'm a professional and I kept moving. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Next time we will come back and watch Dan's second movie. We are done with our first cycle here at This Is Why You Died. That means our second cycle is about to begin. Dan's second movie, First movie, the second cycle will be Gerald's Game, something which I am going to admit I have not seen either.
Yes, got it.
Oh,
I have read the book.
Other people in the boat.
I've read the book, and actually, having read the book is the reason I didn't watch the movie.
Ooh,
because I know what happens in it, and I didn't know if I was ready to actually watch that happen.
Oh no!
Very good.
My
I'm so
excitement
excited.
is gone. Good, as I say, good feelings gone.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this episode of This Is Why You Died. This has been our Silence of the Lambs episode. It was a lot of fun. It's been a great time. Thank you, boys, for joining me today. And so with that, we will bid you adieu for Mr. Dan Marcha Madness. For Ryan Ross Live, I am Sir Ian Dangerous. Thank you for joining us here on This Is Why You Die.